Hare Krishna, welcome to the Krishna book part 2. We're on class number 9. We're going to pick up where Bodhaya Maharaj left off. Last week was a bonus class from His Holiness Bodhaya Swami Maharaj. So we got some of the way through chapter 46, Uddhava visits Vrindavan. We'll pick up from there, and we'll start with Kirtan.
Coming into a comfortable seat, and shift around a little bit until you can find said seat. Just notice what you're carrying with you into class tonight. Sensation, thoughts, emotions, energy, breath. Chant tonight, we welcome and honor all that's present within us, and we offer all of it up. Let's take a clearing breath. Inhale through your nose, fill up. Exhale, let it go. Deep breath in, sip it in. Namaste Shri Gurave Namah. Panchato Patrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare From Bhakti Al Sangha and beyond ki. Hari Hari Bol.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shrakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasantubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Great to be with you all again. So we had some really nice comments on the WhatsApp thread. It was a special week last week. We had a very experienced devotee in His Holiness Bodhayana Maharaj speak on the 46th chapter, the first part of the 46th chapter, Uddhava visits Vrindavan, and a lot of topics in Krishna consciousness. And let's start with reflections on that. Anything that you read or anything that you heard. We'll start with that. Feel free to reflect back anything you already shared in the WhatsApp for our YouTube crowd.
What I heard last week from our guest speaker was he was talking about like not turn away from, but to face Krishna.
Yeah.
That really struck me.
Yeah.
Like even the difficult times, the easy times, all the time, just we have to turn and face.
Yeah, it's like light. As soon as your back is to it, then you experience shadow. That illumination is only there when you face it. Thank you. More reflections. Hamel.
Hi, guys. So I was not familiar with the terms bhava manifestation and prahava and I don't know how to say it. So I looked them up to see if I could understand, and I took it to mean that the bhava manifestation was temporary manifestation of Krishna to fulfill the desires of the devotees. So even though he wasn't in Vrindavan, that manifestation of him was so that, and then I kind of lost. I wasn't really sure because they were chanting and thinking about him and remembering him that brought that manifestation, but he was always there anyways.
Yeah. It's a bit of a technical point. It's going to be elaborated more on in this chapter.
Oh, okay.
But essentially, yes. So for the sake of the pastime, Krishna leaves Vrindavan. And also for the sake of his own devotees in Vrindavan, he appears to leave. How does that work? Well, it increases their feeling for him.
Mm-hmm.
But in another way, he's also present there. But in order for the pastime to go on, they're experiencing separation. So it wouldn't work if he just saunters in, same as always. So he's present with them. They're reciprocating with him in terms of their feelings in their heart. They're missing him, singing about him, chanting about him, remembering him. And he's with them personally, receiving that bhakti and reciprocating with them in their eternal relationship. But he's not in front of them the way he was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's happening.
And then the other two words, the other expansions were it's a direct, powerful manifestation. That was him and Balaram actually physically in Mathura.
Yeah, the Vaibhava and Prabhava expansions. Again, if I'm recalling correctly, the references that were given in the chapter, because that's where you got it from. It was
yes, yeah.
So yeah, I'm seeing it here. Basically, it's saying Prabhupada is saying the real Krishna and Balaram were in Vrindavan in their Bhava manifestation, whereas in Mathura they appeared in the Prabhava and Vaibhava expansions. So if I'm remembering correctly, Prabhava refers to the Krishna in Mathura, Vaibhava is the Balaram in Mathura. There is a more technical kind of like breakdown of the different names of the different kinds of expansions or incarnations of the Lord. For example, you can read about it in the first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3. But I would say the difference between the two, the Sanskrit terms, are not so like you're not going to be tested on it. It's pretty technical. But the main thing to understand is that there's a way in which Krishna is still present in Vrindavan, but
Yeah.
as I said, for the sake of that separation, he's actually also kind of not.
Okay.
so
Well,
like-
that's what I thought, because they're talking about him and thinking about him, chanting, and that he is still present, just like we can do those things and have him be present with us. That's kind of my take on the whole
Like
thing.
that, yeah. We are associating with Krishna because he's present in his name. He's present in his deity form. He's present in the Shastra. He's present in the hearts of the devotees. In fact, in everybody's heart, and he's reciprocating with even our remembrance of him. So that's possible, and how much more so that's true for his pure devotees who are eternally liberated and are always in a relationship with him, unbroken by any distraction. There's no desire there for, yeah, but let me check my iPhone, see how the Red Sox did. It's none of that. We have that they're on a different level. So
Right.
much more so, there's that constant connection. But yeah, it's not, face to face, walking and talking like it was for so much of their whole lives, really, so far.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Eileen.
This one's this is like a simple reflection, but when Krishna left, he wasn't physically there. People could doubt that Krishna was with them. And what Brian Maharaj mentioned was that we have to believe Krishna is protecting us in every aspect of our life. Like he developed a system of plants and CO2 and oxygen, like he gives us breath, like every single solitary minute detail of how we're even able to be here was developed by him.
Right.
So how could we ever think that like he's not there to protect us? And so I thought that was just like really powerful when we think that Krishna, like when we're going through things and we were like, Krishna, where are you? Like he's there. It's just kind of our own, I think there's a longing to have more of like having here present, right? And that idea of like, having him, like we can't see him can be really hard. But we have to have the faith. And so I thought that was really beautiful. And then the other thing I wrote down that I loved that he said was it's like envisioning the human body as a boat with the spiritual master as a captain and the Lord giving us wind to get there. And I feel like, again, like this promise of like Krishna coming back to Vrindavan is like that, for the, for his family and his friends, like that was almost like that wind, that kind of kept them going. And I just love those two like thoughts of like Krishna as protector and Krishna as the wind, to get us there, and then giving us the gift of a spiritual master to like help us and be that physicalness because we're so weak that we like need to have that physicality, and giving us Guru to at least give us that piece of him since he's not physically here with us.
Yeah. And in fact, that's something of what's happening in this chapter is that, there's several reasons that are being fulfilled for what Krishna is trying to achieve by having Uddhava go to Vrindavan. And we'll let Srila Prabhupada really comment on that more fully, but one of them is to give solace to the residents of Vrindavan there, because although he in a very real way, he's with them, they're still experiencing deep separation. And there's a way in which what Uddhava is going to say, the message he's going to convey to them, is a reminder that he can never leave them. He's always with them. So yeah, what I took away from what you're saying is that even though those are liberated souls going through a Leela of the Lord, there's still a way in which we can relate to that, because in this world we can become confused or afraid or doubtful. Is he really looking out for me? But then, as Maharaj was pointing out, there's a system where the plants breathe out oxygen and breathe in carbon dioxide, and we're just the opposite, and we're like living in this whole thing we're being taken care of. And it's pretty easy actually to kind of forget about that, but it's also pretty easy to tune into it and be like, well, whoa, I mean, just the fact that we even can exist in an embodied form is a miraculous achievement. There's a lot of science on how if our planet was ever so slightly closer to the sun or further away or this or that, or more radiation or less radiation, or thicker ozone layer or thinner, or more gravity, less gravity, the conditions for life would just become, as far as we can understand it, become completely impossible. So there's a lot of that pausing and just reflecting on even just the fact that I can be here existing is already pointing towards, that it's not random. Krishna is looking out for us. Thank you.
I appreciate how he also spoke about how Krishna's pastimes are full of mystery, and then he was sort of sharing around that, it just like the eight directions, I think he was saying, the 8 notes and the 8 directions of Krishna's flute. There's so like layer upon layer upon layer that's being shared with us in Leela. There's like different levels of realization and there's like depth that we can go to, and that even the mystery that's present in what you were just sharing and we're reflecting on what Eileen shared of like oxygen and CO2, like it's really far out to sit with.
Yeah, and that esoteric knowledge about Krishna and his flute and the 8 notes, that's something of what you get when you spend time around somebody who's steeped in Krishna consciousness and has no other business, nothing else to do, save and except just really loving hearing and chanting about Krishna, is that they're overflowing with these tidbits. Thank you. Any more reflections before we dive back into chapter 46, where we left off? Okay. Start with our invocation. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Krishna, 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 Pahima. Rama Rakhiva, Rama Rakhiva, Rama Rakhiva, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahima. Jai Krishna book. So continuing chapter 46. So yeah, Prabhupada says he could understand how they were transcendently agreed, and so he immediately wanted to send Uddhava to give them a message of solace. Uddhava is described as the most exalted personality in the Vrishni dynasty, being almost equal to Krishna. He was a great friend of Krishna's, and being the direct student of Brihaspati, the teacher and priest of the heavenly planets, he was very intelligent and sharp in decision. Intellectually, he was highly qualified. Krishna, being his very loving friend, wanted to send Uddhava to Vrindavan just to study the highly elevated, ecstatic devotional service practiced there. Even if one is highly elevated in material education and is even the disciple of Brihaspati, he still has to learn from the gopis and the other residents of Vrindavan how to love Krishna to the highest degree. It was Krishna's special favor to Uddhava to send him to Vrindavan with a message for the residents there, which was meant to pacify them. Lord Krishna is also known as Hari, which means one who takes away all distress from the surrendered souls. Lord Chaitanya, someone say something?
Sorry, I just said I love that. I meant to say it in my head, but it came out.
I love it too.
I'm sorry. I'm totally.
Yeah.
I had my hand up, but I know you were reading. Are we on chapter 46?
We're on chapter 46,
Page
Yeah.
329.
Book.
329.
Page 329.
In the Krishna book, if it's the same edition as ours, the purple cover,
Oh, okay.
page
'Cause I'm on-
329.
No, I'm on 46. Uddhava visits Vrindavana.
Yeah, so it's about a third of the way through. We're on the beginning of the paragraph that it starts, Lord Krishna is also named Hari.
Yeah, mine's completely different. So I can just listen.
Yeah,
Find it.
Same chapter, same name, but it's like saying Nanda Maharaj returned to Vrindavan. I'm like,
that.
Tell me that we're not starting from the beginning.
Yeah, we didn't start from the beginning of the chapter. We're picking up from where,
oh, okay.
because what happened was I read a little bit of the chapter and then passed it off to Maharaj to speak. So it ended up being about a third of the chapter. So if you look a third of the way through.
So if you could just give me the name, the first sentence, and then I'll let you keep
Yeah.
going so I don't take all the
Lord
time.
Krishna is also named Hari, which
Perfect.
means one who takes away all distress from the surrendered souls.
Thank you, and I apologize.
No problem. Lord Chaitanya states that there cannot at any time be a worship as exalted as that realized by the gopis. Being very anxious about the gopis' grief, Krishna talked with Uddhava and politely requested him to go to Vrindavana. Shaking Uddhava's hand with his own hands, he said, "My dear gentle friend Uddhava, please go immediately to Vrindavan and try to pacify my father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi and the gopis. They are grief-stricken, as if suffering from great ailments. Go and give them a message. I hope their ailments will be partially relieved. The gopis are always absorbed in thoughts of me. They have dedicated body, desire, life, and soul to me. I am anxious not only for the gopis, but for anyone who sacrifices society, friendship, love, and personal comforts for me. It is my duty to protect such exalted devotees. The gopis are the most dear. They always think of me in such a way that they remain overwhelmed and almost dead in anxiety due to separation from me. They are keeping alive simply by thinking that I am returning to them very soon." Requested by Lord Krishna, Uddhava immediately left on his chariot and carried the message to Gokula. He approached Vrindavan at sunset when the cows were returning home from the pasturing ground. Uddhava and his chariot were covered by the dust raised by the hooves of the cows. He saw bulls running after cows for mating. Other cows, overladen with milk bags, were running after their calves to feed them with milk. Uddhava saw that the entire land of Vrindavan was filled with white cows and their calves, running here and there all over Gokula, and he could hear the sound of milking. Every residential house in Vrindavan was decorated for the worship of the sun god and the fire god, and for the reception of guests, cows, brahmanas, and demigods. Every home was sanctified by lights and incense. All over Vrindavan, there were nice gardens. All over Vrindavan, there were nice gardens filled with flowers and the sounds of humming bees and singing birds. The lakes were filled with lotus flowers and with ducks and swans. Uddhava entered the house of Nanda Maharaj and was received as a representative of Vasudeva. That should be Vasudeva. Vasudeva, the Krishna's father in Mathura. As a representative of Vasudeva. Vasudeva is another name for Krishna. I think there's like a typo in this. I'm thinking. Nanda Maharaj, what does it say there? Is it Vasudeva?
Yeah, Vasudeva.
Long A, the first A is long?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh, I could be wrong. Well, I guess that's also, there's also a way in which the guest is supposed to be considered like a representative of the Lord. That's in Shastra. Like when you see a guest, they're supposed to represent God. So maybe it's not a typo. Uddhava entered the house of Nanda Maharaj and was received as a representative of Vasudeva. Nanda Maharaj offered him a sitting place and sat down with him to ask about messages from Krishna, Balaram, and other family members in Mathura. He could understand that Uddhava was a very confidential friend of Krishna's, and therefore must have come with good messages. "My dear Uddhava," he said, "how is my friend Vasudeva enjoying life? He is now released from the prison of Kamsa, and he is now with his friends and his children, Krishna and Balaram. So he must be very happy. Tell me about him and his welfare." We are also very happy that Kamsa, the most sinful demon, has been killed. He was always envious of the family of the Yadus, his relatives. Now, because of his sinful activities, he is dead and gone, along with all his brothers. Please let us know whether Krishna now remembers his father and mother, and his friends and companions in Vrindavana. Does he like to remember his cows, his gopis, his Govardhana hill, his pasturing grounds in Vrindavana, or has he now forgotten all these? Is there any possibility of his coming back to his friends and relatives, so we can again see his beautiful face, with its raised nose and lotus-like eyes? We remember how he saved us from the forest fire, how he saved us from the great snake Kaliya in the Yamuna, and how he saved us from so many other demons, and we simply think of how much we are obliged to him for giving us protection in many dangerous situations. My dear Uddhava, when we think of Krishna's beautiful face and eyes and his different activities here in Vrindavana, we become so overwhelmed that all of our activities cease. We simply think of Krishna, how we used to smile and how he looked upon us with grace. When we go to the banks of the Yamuna or the lakes of Vrindavan, or near Govardhana hill or the pasturing fields, we see that the impressions of Krishna's footprints are still on the surface of the earth. We remember him playing in those places because he was constantly visiting them. When his appearance within our minds becomes manifest, we immediately become absorbed in thoughts of him. We think, therefore, We think, therefore, that Krishna and Balaram may be chief demigods in heaven, who have appeared before us like ordinary boys to execute particular duties on earth. This was foretold by Garga Muni when making Krishna's horoscope. If Krishna were not a great personality, how could he have killed Kamsa, who possessed the strength of 10,000 elephants? Besides Kamsa, there were the very strong wrestlers, as well as the giant elephant, Kuvalyapida. Krishna killed all these animals and demons, just as a lion kills an ordinary animal. How wonderful it is that Krishna took in one hand the big, heavy bow, made of 3 joined palm trees, and broke it very quickly. How wonderful it is that, for 7 days continuously, he held up Govardhan Hill with one hand. How wonderful it is that he has killed all the demons like Pralambasura, Tenukasura, Arishtasura, Trinavarta, and Bakasura. They were so strong that even the demigods and the heavenly planets were afraid of them, but Krishna killed them as easily as anything. While describing the uncommon activities of Krishna before Uddhava, Nanda Maharaj gradually became overwhelmed and could no longer speak. As for Mother Yashoda, she sat by the side of her husband and heard the pastimes of Krishna without speaking. She simply cried incessantly, and milk poured from her breasts. When Uddhava saw Maharaj, Nanda, and Yashoda so extraordinarily overwhelmed with thoughts of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when he experienced their extraordinary affection for him, he also became overwhelmed and spoke as follows. My dear Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, you are most respectable among human beings because no one but you can meditate in such transcendental ecstasy. Uddhava continued, Balaram and Krishna are the original personalities of Godhead, from whom the cosmic manifestation emanates. They are chief among all personalities. Each of them is both the material and the efficient cause of this material creation. So the material cause means that which comprises material nature, because the substance of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence is Krishna's energy. Is not different from him, right? Just like if you see a spider, where does their web come from? It comes from inside their own body. Actually, they produce that material. Somehow they regurgitate it or release it from their body. They create a web, and then they can also take it back into them. This is an analogy for how Krishna is himself the substance of the universe. And the efficient cause, that which moves everything, the time factor. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Kalosmi, I am actually time myself. So that's an aspect of him as well. So the stuff, so like the clay on the potter's wheel and the wheel itself, right, are both non-different from Krishna. Each of them is both the material and the efficient cause of this material creation. Material nature is conducted by the Purusha incarnations, who all act under Krishna and Balarama. By their partial representation, they enter the hearts of all living entities. They are the source of all knowledge and all forgetfulness also. End quote. Prabhupada continues. This is confirmed by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. Quote, I am present in everyone's heart, and I cause one to remember and forget. I am the original compiler of the Vedanta, and I'm the actual knower of the Vedas. Uddhava continued, if at the time of death a person can fix his pure mind upon Krishna even for a moment, after giving up their material body, they become eligible to appear in their original spiritual body. Just as the sun rises with all illumination, passing from their life in this way, they immediately enter into the spiritual kingdom, Vaikuntha. This is the result of Krishna conscious practice. If we practice Krishna consciousness in this present body while in a healthy condition and in good mind, simply by chanting the holy Mahamantra Hare Krishna, we will have every possibility of fixing the mind upon Krishna at the time of death. If we do this, then our lives become successful without any doubt. But if we keep our minds always absorbed in fruitive activities for material enjoyment, then naturally at the time of death we shall think of such activities and again be forced to enter material conditioned bodies, to suffer the threefold miseries of material existence. Therefore, to remain always absorbed in Krishna consciousness was the standard of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, as exhibited by Maharaj Nanda, Yashoda, and the gopis. If we can simply follow in their footsteps, even to a minute proportion, our lives will surely become successful and we shall enter the spiritual kingdom, Vaikuntha. My dear Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, Uddhava continued, you have thus fixed your minds wholly and solely upon that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, whose transcendental form is the cause of impersonal Brahman. The Brahman effulgence is only the bodily rays of Narayana, and because you are always absorbed in ecstatic thought of Krishna and Balaram, what pious activity remains for you to perform? I have brought a message from Krishna that he will very soon come back to Vrindavan and satisfy you by his personal presence. Krishna promised that he would come back to Vrindavan after finishing his business in Mathura. This promise he will surely fulfill. I therefore request the two of you, who are the best among all who are fortunate, not to be aggrieved on account of Krishna's absence. You are already perceiving his presence 24 hours a day, yet he will come and see you very soon. Actually, he is present everywhere and in everyone's heart, just as fire is present in wood. Since Krishna is the supersoul, he regards everyone equally. He sees no one as his enemy, no one as his friend, and no one as lower or higher than him. He actually has no father, mother, brother, or relative, nor does he require society, friendship, and love. He does not have a material body like us. He never appears or takes birth like an ordinary human being. He does not appear in higher or lower species of life like ordinary living entities who are forced to take birth on account of their previous fruitive activities. He appears by his internal potency just to give protection to his devotees. He is never influenced by the modes of material nature, but when he appears within this material world, he seems to act like an ordinary living entity under the spells of the modes of material nature. But in fact, he is the overseer of this material creation. And while remaining unaffected by the material modes of nature, he creates, maintains, and dissolves the whole cosmic manifestation. We wrongly look upon Krishna and Balarama as ordinary human beings, just as whirling men see the whole world whirling around them. The personality of Godhead is no one's son. He is actually everyone's father, mother, and supreme controller. There is no doubt of this. Whatever is already being experienced, whatever is not being experienced, whatever already exists, does not exist, or will exist in the future. Whatever is the smallest and whatever is the biggest have no existence outside the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything rests in him, but he is untouched by everything manifested. Nanda and Uddhava thus passed the whole night discussing Krishna. In the morning, the gopis prepared for morning arati by lighting their lamps and sprinkling butter mixed with yogurt. After finishing their Mangala arati, they engaged themselves in churning butter from yogurt. While the gopis were thus engaged, the lamps reflected on their ornaments made the ornaments still brighter. Their churning rods, their arms, their earrings, their bangles, their breasts, everything moved, and kumkuma powder gave their faces a saffron luster, comparable to the rising sun. While making sounds by churning, they also sang the glories of Krishna. The two sound vibrations mixed together ascended to the sky and sanctified the whole atmosphere. After sunrise, the gopis came as usual to offer their respects to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, but when they saw the golden chariot of Uddhava at the door, they began to inquire among themselves, what was that chariot and to whom did it belong? Some of them inquired whether Akrura, who had taken away Krishna, had returned. They were not very much pleased with Akrura because, being engaged in the service of Kamsa, he had taken lotus-eyed Krishna away to the city of Mathura. All the gopis conjectured that Akrura might have come again to fulfill another cruel plan. But they thought, we are now dead bodies without our Supreme Master Krishna. What further act can Akrura perpetrate against these dead bodies? While they were talking in this way, Uddhava finished his morning ablutions, prayers, and chanting, and came before them. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 46th chapter of Krishna. Uddhava visits Vrindavan. Jai. Reflections? I was appreciating how there is this kind of, there's two things happening at the same time. One is like, because these aren't conditioned souls, they don't need to be reminded. They're not like us. There's a way in which what's actually happening for them is just the flames of their love for Krishna are just being fanned more and more, right? And in fact, Uddhava is even learning about how far love for Krishna even goes. because the residents of Vrindavan are so beyond like conceiving of Krishna as God. They just love him so much. They don't even care if he is God. It's not about awe, reverence, or duty for them. So he's even learning from this, like this whole, at the level of the pastime that's happening. And at the same time, there's a way in which he's talking to them as if he's talking to us. Like his activities are the activities of a spiritual master. Just as the conditioned soul is wandering and doesn't know, they require some intervention. So Uddhava is speaking to Nanda Maharaj, and he showed as if they're conditioned souls. They're not. But as a conditioned soul, I was reading, I was thinking like, yeah, that's Krishna's pastime, to send the guru, to send devotees, to send these reminders. Like you were saying, Eileen, like even while we're practicing bhakti, we can become temporarily overwhelmed or confused and wonder if he's really here. And Krishna sends these reminders to his devotees all the time, through his devotees, through the Mahamantra, through coincidences, through the things you hear in Shastra, the deities, things happen. Krishna is always speaking to us. And so
Even on the back of my cereal, the person who made the cereal, his name was Krishna. And I'm like eating it. I've had an interesting few days, and I was just like, oh, and then I looked down and it's like Krishna. And I'm like, okay, there you are. Like it's just silly things like that. But he does it when you're looking for the magic and know the magic's there, he gives it to you.
yeah. And sometimes even if you're not looking, you think it's conditioned souls, like just kind of intoxicated by the material energy, drunkenly stumbling from one material experience to another, bereft of knowledge of their real existence. Still, there's a mercy intervention. There's a way in which is like, you didn't necessarily even ask for this. Or if you did, you may not even remember having asked for it. But here's a reminder. I'm here. I've forgotten you. So I was reminded of this other Leela of the gurus, the devotees who are acting as physicians for the materially intoxicated living entities who have forgotten by the cause of their material illness. They're intoxicated and lost. And there's like, hey, don't forget, Jeev Jago, you're actually a spirit soul having a material experience. So that was what came to me. Any other reflections from all of you before we jump? Yeah, Nancy. You're muted. There we go.
I got it. This might be kind of silly.
We give $1,000 for silly questions. Comments.
But what really interests me, I wondered whether Krishna chose Uddhava because he looks so much like him, that he was giving another layer of Leela where, if I think my loved one's there and I'm like, oh, now he's finally here. And then I realize at the last minute, oh no, that's not him. There's a deeper separation and building a deeper attachment almost because of it.
I think Prabhupada's going to speak about that in the next chapter. And I think you're onto something.
See? Look at me. I'm just, never mind.
You're tuned in. You're tuned in. Think carefully. Yeah. There's some stuff about that. It's not a coincidence. Uddhava is a very exalted person. Brihaspati is the Brahmana who is the priest and spiritual master of all the demigods. So like Indra and Surya and Chandra, all the demigods, who's their guru? Brihaspati. That's the Jupiter planet, by the way, represented in the astrology, the Vedic Jyotish. So Brihaspati was directly the guru of Uddhava. He learned from him. And Uddhava was like his prize pupil. And it's described that of all the residents of Dvarka, which hasn't manifested yet, it's like where Krishna goes to after Mathura, and where Uddhava mainly lived. Uddhava is like the greatest devotee there. So there is a certain, he's definitely been handpicked for a variety of reasons. And some of them, like what you're talking about, the reminder factor of how he looks like Krishna, I'll let Prabhupada speak on, because he's going to. And another one is, as he already said, Prabhupada alluded to, although Uddhava is very high in his bhakti, he's going to Vrindavan thinking he's going to help these people, and he's going to come away feeling like they really helped me, because they're actually like beyond where Uddhava is in their bhakti. Although he's such a externally much more materially advanced. They're just farmers, right? Materially, they're just farmers. And the daughters and sons of farmers. But spiritually, they're the apex. So there's a lot of different stuff going on.
I have a question.
Questions?
So there's the one paragraph that is where like they are describing the environment and like what it looks like and what it sounds like and what it smells like. And I just was, I guess it's kind of a reflection combined with a question to say like, okay, so we are, you know, sense gratification, not good necessarily. Like, not that it's bad, but it's like to, you know, fill our senses and that can take away from our concentration on Krishna. But it's really interesting, like throughout this book, they take every opportunity to like give us every single sense so we can kind of like see it and touch it and make it ours. And so I think it's just interesting, like the juxtaposition of like sense gratification on one hand when it's not in service to Krishna versus having all of our senses heightened through the words in these chapters and like in service to Krishna, and just kind of how it's just an interesting kind of paradox.
Because we think in black and white terms, so sometimes spirituality can seem like, well, if it's not about this world, then it's all about like shutting it all out. It's like no senses, no sense gratification. That's where impersonalism comes in. And it doesn't work because we're actually made for engagement. The Bhagavad Gita says that. The Bhagavatam says that. We're made for engagement. That is our purpose. Our purpose is to be engaged. That's why we're not happy if we're not engaged, because our purpose is to be engaged. The problem isn't sense gratification. It never was. The problem is sense gratification that has nothing to do with Krishna. Because like, if I think that I can enjoy on my own, that I am like a little Krishna, that I can just like independently assert myself and enjoy this matter that is somehow or other here, forgetting that it's all Krishna's anyway. If I try to separate myself from him, that's a problem. That creates problems for me. That's artificial. That's the misunderstanding. The gratifying of the senses, I mean, that's natural. And so we see as you point out, the whole Bhagavatam really, but especially this 10th canto is very rich. You know, there was a description of like what Vrindavan looked like, what it smelled like, the sounds of the milking. And these are really good things to think about and occupy your internal and external senses with. The next time you see a cow, you can be like, well, there's Krishna's favorite animal, you know? And you can appreciate so many sense objects in relationship to these pastimes. And that's a good thing because this world is full of sense objects. And so we're trying to spiritualize them. We're not trying to avoid them exactly. You can't avoid them. You can try if you go down the impersonalist path. It doesn't work because you'll just become bored. So Krishna consciousness is a very sensually rich spiritual tradition. You go to like a temple, they smell like so much incense and flowers. They're overwhelmingly like bright and beautiful with these incredible paintings and deity forms that are like, wow, how much work did they put into decorating with these flowers and like this gorgeous cloth, and what even is this? You know, and the kirtan is like the most beautiful sound vibration, the prasadam, oh my God, and there's these people, and they're so, I can't even describe the devotees, like it's just, you know, so that's bhakti. And it's it can seem like this is spiritual, wait, really? And the evidence is if you associate with those sense objects, then you get a different kind of experience than you do associating with the material sense objects. It's like if you offer something to Krishna, like a banana, it doesn't even have to be a particularly good banana. It doesn't even have to be an organic banana. It's like the most common fruit in the world, right? Thanks to the Del Monte Corporation. Just get yourself a banana and offer it to Krishna with love, whatever you can muster, and then take it as prasadam, and it just tastes different than a banana. There's just something about it. So that's this repeated thing we're doing, is that we're giving ourselves this, we're running this science experiment of putting ourselves constantly in touch with things in relationship to Krishna, and they leave their mark. And Shakti has her hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Krishna. You know, when I first, I think I've been in Bhakti for like maybe 15 years or so. I just remember when when Kastuba was first doing the wisdom of the sage, not wisdom of the sages, the light on wisdom training.
Mm.
And he was teaching the pieces of gyanis and all of the different types of yogis that there were. But I remember trying to I don't remember in what reference, but I remember that I was trying to understand what the gyani and the karmi and the this and that. When if you look at his teaching now, it's very different, because really, like you said, the Gyani, okay, yeah, they have a lot of Shastra information, they're really smart, great. But where's Krishna? He's not there. So when you went right now, it's like his teaching this past year when I was there was just different. It was really about, like, it's Bhagavatam. You need to know the Bhagavatam, and you need to know the Bhagavad Gita, and you need to know Krishna book and the Mahabharata. Like, those are the things that will give you, like, kind of the ideas around, like, the Leelas. But then, like, really it's all about those different, like, the feelings of being around Krishna, being with Krishna, smelling him, hearing his flute, the gopis, like all of those Leelas. And then how to sort of put him, like, whatever it is that I do, or I try to at least, but like whatever we do, they say, and they've been saying is like, Krishna has to be at the center. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. It doesn't matter if you've been in a cave for 10 years, if you're a karmi, if you're anything. Krishna has to be in the center. And so, like, what you're saying is exactly it. It's like he has his sense. So our sense gratification, it's not like we're not having it. It's just a sense gratification of Krishna, right? It's
Yeah.
the smelling of him. Like, when I see, sometimes I'll see some of the different deities and they have the red hands, and I think of, the pace, and it's like, and so all the stories kind of come to life that way, I feel.
Thank you. Yeah. And as far as the role of, philosophy, I mean, we also have an intelligence, a God-given intelligence. And so spiritualizing that is also very much a bhakti-filled activity. So sometimes proud impersonalists will say, well, bhakti is for sentimental people, and they don't actually understand scripture. It's like, well, I mean, the realizations of the gopis of Vrindavan are extremely high. When they prayed, their prayers to Krishna in separation from him were full of the deepest philosophy. The realizations of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, although it's based on a philosophy of love, are actually also intellectually quite rich. So, just like putting your eyes in touch with spiritual sense objects purifies them, putting your brain in touch with spiritual sense objects purifies it too, just putting in touch with Krishna. So we're not anti-philosophy. It's just like, again, that's also there to deepen our love. It's Krishna philosophy. It's not like brain candy.
I just want to say one quick thing is, if that's I didn't mean to say that, if that's
Yeah,
what came out,
I know. I'm just rounding it out for everybody because that's
Yes.
my duty here.
Yeah, no, I meant to say that it has to come back to Krishna, though, like
Totally.
with the philosophy, because I'm studying Shastri right now, so might
Yeah,
as
no, I get it. Let's move on to chapter 47. This is a really long chapter, so we're not going to finish it today, but that's okay because we're never going to finish Krishna. He's all you can eat. Chapter 47, delivery of the message of Krishna to the gopis. So remember what Nancy asked about, or commented about Krishna's form, right? Or Uddhava's form. When the gopis saw Uddhava, they observed that his features were almost exactly resembled those of Krishna, and they could understand that he was a great devotee of Krishna's. His arms were very long, and his eyes were just like the petals of the lotus flower. He was dressed in yellow garments and wore a garland of lotus flowers. His face was very beautiful, having achieved the liberation of Sarupya, and thus having the same bodily features as the Lord. Uddhava looked almost like Krishna. In Krishna's absence, the gopis had been coming dutifully to visit Mother Yashoda's house early in the morning. They knew that Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda were always grief-stricken, and they had made it their first duty to come and pay their respects to the most exalted elderly personalities of Vrindavan. Seeing the friends of Krishna, Nanda and Yashoda would remember Krishna himself and be satisfied. And the gopis also will be pleased by seeing Nanda and Yashoda. So you see how devotees remind each other of Krishna. And it's like a kind of solace. That's part of the lesson here. When the gopis saw that Uddhava was representing Krishna, even in his bodily features, they thought he must be a soul completely surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They began to contemplate, who is this boy who looks just like Krishna? He has the same eyes like lotus petals, the same raised nose and beautiful face, and he is smiling in the same way. In all respects, he resembles Krishna, Shyama Sundara, the beautiful blackish boy. He is even dressed exactly like Krishna. Where has this boy come from? Who is the fortunate girl who has him for her husband? Thus they talked amongst themselves. They were very anxious to know about him, and because they were simple, unsophisticated village girls, they surrounded Uddhava. When the gopis understood that Uddhava had a message from Krishna, they became very happy and called him to a secluded place and offered him a nice sitting place. They wanted to talk with him very freely and did not want to be embarrassed before unknown persons. They welcomed him with polite words and great submissiveness. We know that you are a most confidential associate of Krishna and that he has therefore sent you to Vrindavan to give solace to his father and mother. We can understand that family affection is very strong. Even great sages who have taken to the renounced order of life cannot give up family affection cent per cent. Sometimes they think of their family members. Krishna has therefore sent you to his father and mother, otherwise he has no further business in Vrindavan. He is now in town. What does he have to know about Vrindavan village or the cows' pasturing grounds? These are not at all useful for Krishna because he is now a man of the city. Surely he has nothing to do with persons who do not happen to be his family members. Friendships with those outside the family continue as long as there is some selfish interest in them. Otherwise, why should one bother about those outside the family? Specifically, a person attached to the wives of others is interested in them as long as there is a need of sense gratification, just as the bumblebees have interest in flowers as long as they want to take the honey out of them. It is psychologically very natural that a prostitute does not care for her paramour as soon as he loses his money. Similarly, when the citizens find that a government is incapable of giving them full protection, they leave the country. A student, after finishing his education, gives up his relationship with the teacher in the school. A priest, after taking his reward from the worshipper, gives him up. When the fruit season is over, birds are no longer interested in the tree. Just after eating in the house of a host, the guest gives up his relationship with him. After a forest fire, when there is a scarcity of green grass, deer and other animals give up the forest. And so a man, after enjoying his girlfriend, gives up his connection with her. In this way, all the gopis indirectly accused Krishna by citing many examples. Uddhava understood that the gopis of Vrindavan were all simply absorbed in the thought of Krishna and his childhood activities. While talking about Krishna with Uddhava, they forgot all about their household business. They even forgot about themselves as their interest in Krishna increased more and more. One of the gopis, namely Srimati Radharani, was so much absorbed in thoughts of Krishna by dint of her personal touch with him that she actually began to talk with a bumblebee, which was flying there and trying to touch her lotus feet. There's a painting at the stairwell of this pastime. It's probably also in the Krishna book. While the other gopis were talking with Krishna's messenger Uddhava, Srimati Radharani took that bumblebee to be a messenger from Krishna and began to talk with it as follows. Bumblebee, you are accustomed to drinking honey from flower to flower, and therefore you have preferred to be a messenger of Krishna, who is of the same nature as you. I can see on your mustaches the red powder of kumkuma which was smeared on the flower garland of Krishna, while it was pressed against the breasts of some other girl who is my competitor. You feel very proud because of having touched that garland, and your mustaches have become reddish. You have come here carrying a message for me, anxious to touch my feet. But my dear bumblebee, let me warn you, do not touch me. I don't want any messages from your unreliable master. You are the unreliable servant of an unreliable master. This is the pastime photo art. Here she is. We have a painting of that here. You can see I'm not sure if you can see the bee. It's on the flower. Flower she's looking at. She's talking to that bee right there. It may be that Srimati Radharani purposely addressed the bumblebee sarcastically in order to indirectly criticize the messenger Uddhava. Like the other gopis, Srimati Radharani saw that Uddhava's bodily features resembled Krishna's, but she also saw Uddhava as being equal to Krishna. Indirectly, therefore, she indicated that Uddhava was as unreliable as Krishna himself. Srimati Radharani wanted to give specific reasons why she was dissatisfied with Krishna and his messenger. She addressed the bumblebee. Your master Krishna is exactly of your quality. You sit down on a flower, and after tasting a little honey, you immediately fly away and sit on another flower and taste. Similarly, once only did your master Krishna give me the chance to taste the touch of his lips, and then he left me altogether. I know also that the goddess of fortune Lakshmi, who is always in the midst of the lotus flower, is constantly engaged in Krishna's service. But I do not know how she has become so captivated by Krishna, and why she is so much attached to Krishna, although she knows his actual character. Maybe she is so much captivated by Krishna's sweet words that she cannot understand his real character. As far as we are concerned, we are more intelligent than the goddess of fortune. We are not going to be cheated anymore by Krishna or his messengers. According to expert opinion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is a subordinate expansion of Srimati Radharani. As Krishna has numerous expansions of Vishnu Murtis, so his pleasure potency, Radharani, also has innumerable expansions of goddesses of fortune. Therefore, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi ji is always eager to be elevated to the position of the gopis. Srimati Radharani continued, You foolish bumblebee, you are trying to satisfy me and get a reward by singing the glories of Krishna, but it is a useless attempt. We gopis are bereft of all our possessions. We are away from our homes and families. We know very well about Krishna. We know even more than you. So whatever you make up about him will be old stories to us. Krishna is now in the city and is better known as the friend of Arjuna. He now has many new girlfriends who are no doubt very happy in his association. Because the lusty burning sensation of their breasts has been satisfied by Krishna, they are now happy. If you go there and glorify Krishna, they may be pleased to reward you. You are just trying to pacify me by your behavior as a flatterer, and therefore you have put your head under my feet. But I know the trick you're trying to play. I know that you are a messenger coming from an even greater trickster, Krishna. Therefore, please leave me. I can understand that you are expert in reuniting two opposing parties, but at the same time, you must know that I cannot place my reliance upon you, nor upon your master, Krishna. We left our husbands, children, and relatives only for Krishna, yet he did not feel any obligation in exchange. At last, he left us forlorn. Do you think we can place our faith in him again? We know that Krishna cannot live for a moment without the association of young women. That is his nature. He is finding difficulty in Mathura because he is no longer in the village among innocent cowherd girls. He is in aristocratic society and must be feeling difficulty in making friendships with other young girls. Perhaps you have come here to canvass again, or to take us there. But why should Krishna expect us to go there? He is greatly qualified to entice all other girls, not only in Vrindavan or Mathura, but all over the universe. His wonderfully enchanting smile is so attractive, and the movements of his eyebrows are so beautiful that he can call for any woman from the heavenly, middle, or plutonic planets. Even Mahalakshmi, the greatest of all goddesses of fortune, hankers to render him some service. In comparison to all these women of the universe, what are we? We are very insignificant. Krishna advertises himself as magnanimous, and he is praised by great saints. His qualifications would be perfectly utilized if he would only show us some mercy, for we are so much downtrodden and neglected by him. You poor messenger, you are only a less intelligent servant. You do not know much about Krishna, how ungrateful and hard-hearted he has been, not only in this life, but in his previous lives also. We have all heard this from our grandmother, Purnamasi. She has informed us that Krishna was born in a Kshatriya family previous to this birth, and was known as Ramachandra. In that birth, instead of killing Vali, an enemy of his friend, in the manner of a Kshatriya, he killed him just like a hunter. A hunter takes a secure hiding place and then kills an animal without facing it. So Lord Ramachandra, as a Kshatriya, should have fought with Vali face to face. But instigated by his friend, he killed him from behind a tree. Thus he deviated from the religious principles of a Kshatriya. Also, he was so attracted by the beauty of Sita that he converted Shurpanakha, the sister of Ravana, into an ugly woman by cutting off her nose and ears. Shurpanakha proposed an intimate relationship with him, and as a Kshatriya, he should have satisfied her. But he was so henpecked that he could not forget Sita Devi, and converted Shurpanakha to an ugly woman, Before that birth as a Kshatriya, he took his birth as a Brahmin boy known as Vamanadeva and asked charity from Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was so magnanimous that he gave him whatever he had, yet Krishna, as Vamanadeva, ungratefully arrested him just like a crow and pushed him down to the Patala kingdom. We know all about Krishna and how ungrateful he is. But here is the difficulty. In spite of his being so cruel and hard-hearted, it is very difficult for us to give up talking about him. And it is not only we who are unable to give up this talk, but great sages and saintly persons also engage in talking about him. We, gopis of Vrindavan, do not want to make any more friendships with this blackish boy, but we do not know how we shall be able to give up remembering and talking about his activities. Since Krishna is absolute, his so-called unkind activities are as relishable as his kind activities. Therefore, saintly persons and great devotees like the gopis cannot give up Krishna in any circumstances. Lord Chaitanya therefore prayed, Krishna, you are free and independent in all respects. You can either embrace me or crush me under your feet, whatever you like. You may make me brokenhearted by not letting me see you throughout my whole life, but you are my only object of love. In my opinion, Srimati Radharani continued, one should not hear about Krishna. Because as soon as a drop of the nectar of his transcendental activities is poured into the ear, one immediately rises above the duality of attraction and rejection. Being completely freed from the contamination of material attachment, one gives up attachment for this material world, including family, home, wife, children, and everything else materially dear to every person. Being deprived of all material acquisitions, one makes his relatives and himself unhappy. Then he wanders in search of Krishna, either as a human being or in other species of life, even as a bird, and voluntarily accepts the profession of a mendicant. It is very difficult to actually understand Krishna, his name, his qualities, his form, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, and his entourage. Srimati Radharani continued to speak to the black messenger of Krishna. Please do not talk any more about Krishna. It is better to talk about something else. We are already doomed, like the black spotted she-deer in the forest who are enchanted by the sweet musical vibration of the hunter. In the same way, we have been enchanted by the sweet words of Krishna. And by thinking of the rays of his toenails again and again, we are becoming more and more lusty for his association. Therefore, I request you not to talk of Krishna anymore. These talks of Radharani with the bumblebee messenger, including her accusing Krishna in so many ways, and at the same time expressing her inability to give up talking about him, are the signs of the topmost transcendental ecstasy, called Mahabhava. The ecstatic Mahabhava manifestation is possible only in the persons of Radharani and her associates. Great acharyas like Srila Rupa Goswami and Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur have analyzed these Mahabhava speeches of Srimati Radharani and described their different varieties, such as Udgurna, or bewilderment, and Jalpa Pratijalpa, or talking in different ways. These are the signs of Ujjvala Rasa, or the brightest jewel of love of God. While Srimati Radharani was talking with the bee, and the bee was flying hither and thither, it all of a sudden disappeared from her sight. She was in full mourning due to separation from Krishna and felt ecstasy by talking with the bee. But as soon as the bee disappeared, she became almost mad, thinking that the messenger bee might have returned to Krishna to inform him all about her talking against him. Krishna must be very sorry to hear it, she thought. In this way, she was overwhelmed by another type of ecstasy. In the meantime, the bee, flying hither and thither, appeared before her again. She thought, Krishna is still kind to me. In spite of the messengers carrying disruptive messages, he is so kind that he has again sent the bee to take me to him. Srimati Radharani was very careful this time not to say anything against Krishna. My dear friend, I welcome you, she said. Krishna is so kind that he has again sent you. Krishna is so kind and affectionate to me that he has fortunately sent you back in spite of your carrying my message against him. All good fortune to you, my dear friend. Now you may ask me whatever you want. I shall give you anything because you are so kind to me. You have come to take me to Krishna because he is not able to come here, being surrounded by new girlfriends in Mathura. But you are a tiny creature. How can you take me there? How will you be able to help me meet Krishna while he is taking rest there with the goddess of fortune and embracing her to his chest? Never mind. Let us forget all these things about my going there or sending you. Please let me know how Krishna is faring in Mathura. Tell me if he still remembers his foster father, Nanda Maharaj, his affectionate mother Yashoda, his cowherd friends, and his poor friends like us, the gopis. I'm sure he must sometimes sing about us, who served him just like maidservants without any payment. Is there any possibility that Krishna will come back and place his aguru-scented hand on our heads? Please, put all these inquiries to Krishna. Uddhava was standing near, and he heard Radharani talking in this way, as if she had become almost mad for Krishna. He was exceedingly surprised at how the gopis were accustomed to thinking of Krishna constantly in that topmost ecstasy of Mahabhava love. He had brought a message in writing from Krishna, and now he wanted to present it before the gopis just to pacify them. He said, "My dear gopis, your mission of human life is now successful. You are all wonderful devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you are eligible to be worshipped by all kinds of people. You are worshipable throughout the three worlds because your minds are wonderfully absorbed in the thought of Vasudeva, Krishna. He is the goal of all pious activities and ritualistic performances, such as giving charity, rigidly following the austerity of vows, undergoing severe penances, and igniting the fire of sacrifice. He is the purpose behind chanting different mantras, reading the Vedas, controlling the senses, and concentrating the mind in meditation. These are some of the many different processes for self-realization and attainment of perfection in life, but actually they're meant only for realizing Krishna and dovetailing oneself in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the last instruction of the Bhagavad Gita also. Although there are descriptions of different processes of self-realization, at the end, Krishna recommends that one give up everything and simply surrender unto him. All other processes are meant for teaching one how to surrender ultimately onto the lotus feet of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita also says that this surrendering process is completed by a sincere person after executing the processes of self-realization in wisdom and austerity for many births. Since the perfection of such austerity was completely manifested in the lives of the gopis, Uddhava was fully satisfied upon seeing their transcendental position. He continued, "My dear gopis, the mentality you have developed in relationship with Krishna is very, very difficult to attain, even for great sages and saintly persons. You have attained the highest perfectional stage of life. It is a great boon for you that you have fixed your minds upon Krishna and have decided to have Krishna only, giving up your families, homes, relatives, husbands, and children for the sake of the Supreme Personality. Because your minds are now fully absorbed in Krishna, the Supreme Soul, universal love has automatically developed in you. I think myself very fortunate that I have been favored by your grace to see you in this situation." When Uddhava said that he had a message from Krishna, the gopis were more interested in hearing the message than in hearing about their exalted position. They did not very much like being praised for their high position. This is a common trait of devotees. They always put Krishna first. And although they're worth glorifying, and it's very good to do so, you'll find that the devotees are very quick to pass the buck, as it were, pass the credit upwards. They showed their anxiety to hear the message Uddhava had brought from Krishna. Uddhava said, "My dear gopis, I am especially deputed to carry this message to you, who are such great and gentle devotees. Krishna has specifically sent me to you because I am his most confidential servitor." Uddhava did not deliver to the gopis the written message brought from Krishna, but he personally read it to them. The message was very gravely written so that not only the gopis, but all empiric philosophers might understand how pure love of God is intrinsically integrated with all the different energies of the Supreme Lord. From Vedic information, it is understood that the Supreme Lord has multi-energies. Parasya Shaktir Vivitaiva Shruyate. That's from an Upanishad. Also, the gopis were such intimate personal friends of Krishna that while he was writing the message for them, he was so moved that he could not write distinctly. Uddhava, as a student of Brihaspati, had very sharp intelligence, so instead of handing over the written message, he thought it wise to read it personally and explain it to them. As an aside, I'll mention that in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, he was very fond of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. However, his very close friend and associate Gadadhara Pandit very quickly realized that he could not be trusted with a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam because he would ruin it with his tears. This is before the on-demand printing of the BBT, when everything was on palm leaves and so forth. You couldn't just go down to your local ISKCON temple and order a Bhagavatam. It's a big deal to have it transcribed. So Gadadhara Pandit used to read it to him because Mahaprabhu would cry. So we can only imagine if the gopis had the message in their hand, it would disintegrate. Uddhava continued, these are the words of the personality of Godhead. My dear gopis, my dear friends, please know that separation between ourselves is impossible at any time, at any place, or under any circumstances, because I am all-pervading. This all-pervasiveness of Krishna is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, in both the 9th and 7th chapters. In the 9th chapter, Krishna is described as all-pervasive in his impersonal feature. Everything rests in him, but he is not personally present everywhere. And in the 7th chapter, it is stated that the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, and the 3 subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego, are all his inferior energies. But there is another superior energy, which is called the living entity. The living entities are also directly part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is both the material and the efficient cause of everything. We went over what those two mean earlier. He is always intermingled with everything as cause and effect. Not only the gopis, but all living entities are always inseparably connected with Krishna in all circumstances. The gopis, however, are perfectly and thoroughly in cognition of this relationship with Krishna. Whereas living entities under the spell of Maya, the illusory energy, are forgetful of Krishna and think themselves separate identities having no connection with him. Love of Krishna, or Krishna consciousness, is therefore the perfection of real knowledge, in understanding things as they are. Our minds can never be vacant. The mind is constantly occupied with some kind of thought, and the subject matter of such thought cannot be outside the 8 elements of Krishna's energy. One who knows this philosophical aspect of all thoughts is actually a wise person, and they surrender unto Krishna. The gopis are the epitome of this perfectional stage of knowledge. They are not simple mental speculators. Their minds are always in Krishna. The mind is nothing but the energy of Krishna. Actually, any person who can think, feel, and will cannot be separated from Krishna. But the stage in which they can understand their eternal relationship with Krishna is called Krishna consciousness. The disease condition in which they cannot understand their eternal relationship with Krishna is the contaminated stage, or Maya. Since the gopis are on the platform of pure transcendental knowledge, their minds are always filled with Krishna consciousness. For example, as there is no separation between fire and air, there is no separation between Krishna and the living entities. But the living entities forget Krishna, they are not in their normal condition. As for the gopis, because they are always thinking of Krishna, they are on the absolute stage of perfection and knowledge. The so-called empiric philosophers sometimes think the path of bhakti is meant for the less intelligent. But unless the so-called man of knowledge comes to the platform of bhakti, his knowledge is certainly impure and imperfect. Actually, the stage of forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with Krishna is separation. But that is also illusory because there is no such separation. The gopis were not situated in that illusory condition of life. So even from the philosophical point of view, for them, there was no separation. So with regards to this idea that there's actually no separation from Krishna, one analogy given in the 11th canto is when you're on the earth, you have sunrise and you have sunset. But if you're on the sun, there's no such thing. Right? So it is only by analogy, it is only by the experience of feeling that we are in some independent reality outside of Krishna that we can actually have that. It's not actually so. It's a matrix. It's the blue pill. It's not reality. Even the prison bars provided by Krishna, everything is there. He is himself the substance. So just as a person who is residing on the sun planet has no experience of sunrise or sunset, there's no separation. Similarly, a Krishna conscious person, when they become fully Krishna conscious, realizes they were never separated from Krishna. It was like a dream. Uddhava continued reading Krishna's message. Nothing is separate from me. The whole cosmic manifestation is resting on me and is not separate from me. Before the creation, I was existing. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. Eko vai Narayana asinam Brahma neshanaha. Quote, before creation, there was only Narayana. There was no Brahma and no Shiva. The whole cosmic manifestation is manipulated by the three modes of material nature. It is said that Brahma, the incarnation of the quality of passion, created this universe, but Brahma is the secondary creator. The original creator is Narayana. This is confirmed by Shankaracharya. Narayana Pravyaktat. Quote, Narayana is transcendental, beyond this cosmic creation. In this way, nothing within this cosmic manifestation is separate from Krishna, although Krishna's original form is not visible in everything. I think we'll pause here. This is about halfway. Okay, let's take some reflections. Uddhava's visit, his bodily form, the gopis' love for him, they're crowding him. Srimati Radharani and her Mahabhava, speaking against Krishna and then thinking, oh no, she's going to go tell him. And then diplomatically speaking back. This is all very high, but her love for Krishna is the highest. And so we see this complete absorption. And even Uddhava is like shocked and amazed. And the beginning of the delivery of the message, which has to do with Krishna speaking about his all-pervasiveness and how everything is resting on him. And although they didn't need to hear that, we definitely do. Any reflections, comments, or questions on anything today?
Just love the definitions of Christian consciousness that were also given. Beyond the like keeping your consciousness on Krishna, right? Always thinking about Krishna, having Krishna at the center. But I love this that Krishna consciousness is love of Krishna. And when you understand your eternal relationship with Krishna, then you're Krishna consciousness, or then you're Krishna conscious. Right? When you don't understand your eternal relationship with Krishna, then you're in Maya.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, there's a relationship there, but being conscious of it is Krishna consciousness. Like the baby is connected by the umbilical cord. They don't know it, but they are. And then, you know, the relationship continues, but there's a point at which the baby starts to realize that it's not just them. There's actually like mother and father and a broader world. And so we can say the relationship between Krishna and the living entities is eternal. And yet there is a very important way in which when somebody actually acknowledges that, it's huge. Actually, the whole universe moves. Nothing's bigger than that, because that's actually like awakening. Every little tiny way in which they recognize that actually there's something more, and I'm connected, and there's a relationship there is meaningful.
And it's beyond simply like God consciousness, or that there is a God.
Yeah,
It's
and
like, oh no,
ultimately,
I have love of God.
yeah, ultimately it's very personal, that it's actually like I am loved and cared for, and I love the Lord. That is the potentiality of that relationship, even if it's not like fully manifested. We're made for that. Yeah. Sundarananda has his hand up.
So, yes, so Hare Krishna. Yes,
Hare
I was
Krishna.
wondering when you're reading about the part where Radharani, I believe, on behalf of the gopis, speaks about how Krishna has been the same person, like the has been Lord Ram, has been all these different great avatars. And it's amazing how I believe she's speaking on behalf of the gopis, because no one seems to object. And it's amazing how and knowing all that, they still are able to maintain this kind of seemingly regular conjugal relationship with Krishna. Although I would think that someone would be so much in awe. This is God who has been through the ages, not just Krishna here, but he's been through all that. And I think women are able to take their consort or boyfriend or husband as their at wherever they are, the status quo, and move on with that. I think it's amazing the state of mind of these gopis and Radharani in particular.
Yeah. Thank you. It must be said that some of the judgment of Krishna in his different forms is coming from a less than objective way because of their love for Krishna. There's a way in which they feel that he's left them and neglected them. And so this criticism of Ramachandra, criticism of Vamanadev, it's not to be taken as like objective understanding of those pastimes of those incarnations. There's like they're so high actually that they're like Srimati Radharani says like, oh, Lakshmi doesn't know any better, so she's still dedicated to him. But for us, we are smarter than the goddess of fortune. Because we're not, so we don't trust this sneaky Krishna. So she's criticizing Lakshmi Devi. She's criticizing these incarnations. She can do that, but it's actually not like a heretical statement. It's divine love. So if you actually want, if someone wants, I'm not saying for you. I think you know this, but for anyone who's listening, if one wants to know more about Ramachandra, you can refer to him. He's mentioned in the 9th canto in one chapter, and of course the Ramayana is there. So the actual pastimes of Ramachandra, or Vamanadev, who's there in the 8th canto, Nrsingadev, 7th canto, and so on and so forth. Their actual pastimes are there, but when you're hearing from the gopis, they're kind of an unreliable narrator in a way because they're speaking from love. They're speaking from divine love. Just like Radharani's talking to the bumblebee is like not an objective reality. It's a very deep glimpse into her heart. Thank you for that. Pam was asking what version of the Krishna book we use. She ordered one online. It was the first 30 chapters, no pictures. Yeah, you may have gotten a part 1. I'm sending a link in the chat. If you're going to buy books online, go to krishna.com. They'll have the best sources. You can also just, so when you click on this link, you'll see the cover and you can look inside it. That's the one we use here, the purple cover. It's the most recent printing, but hope that helps.
Okay, great, thank you.
You can also just have one sent to you. Let us know. And you do have the Vedabase, I think, reference. Yeah, so you can always check it out
I
online.
have that. I've been reading on there, but I really like having the book in front of me.
Yeah.
So
Transcendental book.
I'll do both. Thank you.
That's why we have bookshelves to fill
Yes.
more questions, comments, questions. Nancy.
I was just gonna say, I so related to the angst and the deep hurt that Radharani was expressing as she was getting worked up about this, because it's her love is so deep that she's going to get into the state of like trying to push away that love, and as you try to push it away, it gets deeper and deeper. And it also is that place where it's like, wait a minute, I really shouldn't be talking about this. I can't talk about him anymore because the pain is getting deeper and deeper for the separation.
Yeah, in fact, at one point she's blaming the bumblebee. Why are you talking about Krishna so much?
Yeah, right.
Meanwhile, it's just she can't stop.
Yeah.
It's really something. Thank you.
It's interesting. It's like she's, obsessed, clearly, obsessed with the thought of it, but it's almost like she's talked her way through all like the stages of grief, like lamenting that he's gone, and then maybe some sort of denial, and how can you do this to me, and then angry for a moment, and then like, all the way came back to, oh, he's back. I love him so much. Thank you so much, Bumblebee. Like,
yeah. The emotions of the gopis, in Srimati Radharani in particular, are quite high. And if you want to know more, as I recall, the 10th canto, chapter 47, the corresponding section of Bhagavatam, which I can link to here. If anyone wants to learn more about their emotional experience, read those purports. They'll tell you more. So I'll find it for you. And while I do, somebody else can give us more questions, reflections, comments. It's 8 o'clock, so we can't go on for much longer, but anything else? Okay. So if you want to know more about the gopis' emotions, look at the purports to this section of Bhagavatam. I just sent a link in the chat.
Can you say it aloud?
Yeah, it's the Vedabase, Canto 10, Chapter 47. And if that's it, we'll end here for now. So we got halfway through chapter 47. So please, for next week, read chapter 47. You'll read what we already covered and what we didn't cover. We'll finish the chapter next week and likely have time to continue. And please comment and reflect anything from the talk on Srimati Radharani, the gopis and separation from Krishna, Nanda and Yashoda, Uddhava and his service to the gopis, service of the guru to remind us of Krishna, and also anything else. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Krishna book ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Vancha kalpatarupyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
everyone.
Night.